On the weekend of one of the biggest racing events in all the world, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, Race Department takes you a country away to Donington Park in England for the second round of the virtual BMW M235i Racing Cup, live and broadcast on racedepartment.com. This is going to be one of the most exciting events on the calendar, the Donington Park National Circuit, a staple in touring car racing. And it is here that these virtual BMWs will take part in a 32-lap race in the second round of the virtual BMW Racing Cup. I'm RJ O'Connell. I will not be joined by my broadcast partners Yuri Kasdorp and Ricardo Edelman. They are having the privilege and the honor to go to the 24 Hours of Le Mans this weekend. I will stay back here and broadcast all this great racing action for you on racedepartment.com. We are just in the closing minutes of our 1-hour practice session. This will lead into a 15-minute qualifying in which the drivers will all set their fastest laps and set the grid for a 32-lap feature race around this 3.4-kilometer circuit in Donington, England. Of course, this track best known for countless great moments in the British Touring Car Championship. Also one of the greatest Formula One moments of all time. Who could ever forget Ayrton Senna's drive from sixth to first in a single lap in torrential rain conditions on his way to winning the European Grand Prix at this very track. Well, if you were with us for the last round, you saw a very exciting race at the Silverstone International Circuit. The controversy has clouded this event. In the end, we saw a much different official podium than the one you saw on the broadcast, with Akis Kefrakidis ultimately being declared the official winner after several time penalties were handed down to some of the front-running drivers. Now, as we look through the official Silverstone results, it is Akis Kefrakidis of the Double Dragon Racing Team leading 1-2 with his teammate Stelios Fevgatos, and Ross Balfour of RPM Racing rounding out the podium. Niki Jakovic actually qualified on the pole position for that event. He finished third on track, but is classified fourth with a 20-second time penalty. Jack Keithley and Hani El-Sadi were handed down penalties of 1 minute 40 seconds and 2 minutes 30 seconds, respectively, for excessive track limits violations. Fortunately, due to some falling outs between the drivers and the race organizers, you will not see Hani El-Sadi on track this weekend. Nor will you see Paul Patrick of the Walk Racing Team, but we will continue to see some of the best drivers in the world compete in this virtual BMW Racing Cup, including promoted from the second server from last round, Adrian Campfield, who is currently quickest in this practice session. He has a fastest time of 1 minute 13.082. Remember, he was actually disqualified for the pre-qualifying session due to track limits violations, but now he's here in his first race on the top server, and he looks to be one of the favorites representing Walk Racing, the team which won the Virtual Stock Car Championship with Risto Caput earlier this week. Jakovic is second, still one of the quickest drivers out on the track. He has a 1 minute 13.104. And then it's the Roaring Pipe Maniacs drivers, Kevin Asher, who also is promoted from the second server. He's third, alongside Ross Balfour in fourth, and Rami Mattia, the Finnish team, is the fifth place driver on the track. So that really does lay out the scene. In fact, we have a pretty close field. The top 7 drivers in this field separated by by about 0.8 of a second here. And the field was very close in Silverstone last week. We should see another close race at what is an absolutely phenomenal circuit in Donington Park. Drivers all taking their time, putting in as many laps as they can to rubber in this circuit. Air temperature on track is 26 degrees Celsius. The asphalt track temperature 32 degrees. And this track will get better as the race goes on. In fact, I'm going to look here to see who is out on track, just to find some of the quicker cars. And we do actually have Niki Jakovic, who is currently second on track, crossing the line here. This is one of the favorite circuits in all the British Touring Car Championship, and really in all of motorsport. This is, of course, a very phenomenal mod that was created for Assetto Corsa. We do want to thank Brunn for this amazing track. One of the best track mods that Assetto Corsa has to offer, even early in its development cycle. We are expected to have a full field of 24 cars in this race. We have 21 participating right now. Let you know of any absences or changes in the entry list. And I do want to thank my good friend Joel for providing the pictures and the sounds of this race in the absence of our usual partners, Ricardo Edelman and Yuri Kastorp. The broadcast overlays are, of course, provided by our good friend Nick Murdoch, who worked tirelessly to provide these broadcast overlays for Assetto Corsa. Admittedly, this game is a bit difficult to work with. It doesn't quite have the mileage and the accessibility for broadcasting that, say, a game like a Stock Car Extreme or an R Factor 2 has. But we are doing our best that we can to bring you the pictures from what should be an absolutely tremendous race. I have just over 8 minutes left in this final practice. The cars continue to circulate the track and put some more rubber down. I do think we will have a qualifying best time in qualifying that should be in the sub 1 minute 13 range as this track continues to improve with the number of laps being put down on it. And I'm actually just following some of the drivers here. We have quite a close field of drivers, and really the controversies from Silverstone really put a whole new dynamic on the rest of this championship, because we do have who was really one of the fastest driver. We have the fastest driver in pre-qualifying, and we had the fastest driver in Silverstone. Unfortunately, absence due to some differences of opinion. We'll leave it at that. But we still should have a very all right. So we will keep an eye on the action here. We have just about 7 minutes left to go in this practice session before we start 15 minutes of qualifying. And of course, all of our great racing action, all of our pictures provided exclusively at racedepartment.com. You'll be able to watch this race on the archives later. So if you're just tuning in, wherever you are in the world, we do hope you enjoy the remainder of this great race from Donington Park. Adrian Campfield, still the quickest driver in the practice session, but the top three drivers are separated by less than a tenth of a second. It's 22 thousandths of a second to the second place car of Nicky Jakovic, and the third place car of Kevin Asher is only 51 one-thousandths of a second behind the leader Campfield. So between those three drivers, it could be a very, very close shootout for pole position. And we should have an onboard lap with one of our drivers soon to take a look at this great racing facility. It's been open for a number of decades. In fact, touring car history dates back to 1977. In fact, we're going to do an onboard lap with one of our drivers here pretty soon. We're going to be following the car of Marco Wachter, who is currently sitting 20th on the board in hopes to improve his time. Now, from the first round at Silverstone, the bottom five drivers in that top server will be relegated to server 2 for this round, and conversely, the top five drivers from server 2 will be promoted up to server 1. Let's go on board. Let's go on board then. Excuse me, some technical difficulties. We are just trying to sort this all out, and we do hope to be able to provide you with a great onboard lap of this magnificent facility. Really, of course, one of my favorite tracks to drive in all of Assetto Corsa. And of course, the BMW M235i might be one of the best cars in all of Assetto Corsa to drive. This, of course, based on the M235i Coupe, the production version. A lot of it is the same, but there are a couple of fundamental differences. It does have the same six-cylinder turbo engine, producing 333 horsepower. However, it does come with an FIA certified safety cell and tank. Comes with plenty of assists, including anti-lock brakes and traction control. Comes equipped with BMW Motorsport spoilers, diffuser, carbon fiber mirrors. Comes with all the fittings that make it a proper race car. In fact, it does have its own class in the VLN Endurance Series and the 24 Hours at the Nürburgring. There's a great turnout of cars for this car at a great racing venue. As Marco Wagner completes his lap here, we're going to go on board with him as he goes down the Wheatcroft Straight and into Redgate. Down all the way into third gear. Now for the complex stuff. Into Hollywood. Not much lifting here. Then into fifth gear still through the crater curves, and then brake down into fourth for the old hairpin. And then it's a long follow-up. Clip the exit just as much as you like through the Schwartz curve. And then on the brakes again, making sure the car is straight as possible here on entry in McLean's corner. And you've got to run up the hill. Really, the pictures kind of don't do it much justice. As you go into Compass corner, third gear. Then long way down in the Dunlop Straight. This is one of the faster parts of the circuit here. These cars will easily be topping over 100 miles an hour on this part of the track. And then hard on the brakes, and hope you don't get it wrong here at the S's. It's so difficult to get the line right through there, but if you can, you have a great exit onto Wheatcroft to complete the lap. We have just over 2 minutes left in this session, and it is still Adrian Campfield who sets the pace in practice, but only just so. So it's going to be a very close qualifying session, we feel. As the drivers continue to circulate and put some more rubber down on this track. Actually, the track grip up to about 95%, so we should see some much quicker qualifying times. These drivers, of course, testing out what they can with their setups, making sure their car is comfortable to drive for the race, but still has plenty of pace to set an outright fastest lap in qualifying. Remember, it only takes one lap to take the pole position. And Nicky Jakovic proved that by taking pole position at Silverstone in what was a very, very tough field. We have just over 75 seconds left. Drivers making their final adjustments as they prepare for the qualifying. It is 15 minutes long. And of course, it will set the field for this 32-lap race. And of course, if you want to participate in a league or a club event such as this, you can always join racedepartment.com, sign up for our forums, and take part in a club or a league event of your own. There's plenty of great events to choose, and plenty of the world's best sims, including Assetto Corsa, R-Factor 2, Stock Car Extreme, and Project Cars as well. We have plenty of action for all of our great racing sims. So do check it out at racedepartment.com. 30 seconds left in this practice session. We should be about wrapping things up here, as still the fastest time in this practice session, a 1 minute 13.082 from Adrian Campfield of the Walk Racing team. And hopefully they will continue their great run of success that I've been privileged to see in the virtual Stock Car Championship for the last number of rounds, the last month. As the session comes to a close, we will now start to begin the 15-minute qualifying session that will set the field for this race. And these drivers are going to be eager to get out on track as soon as possible to get the right track position that they can. And we'll start to see some of the leaders out already. Look at this, everybody funneling out on track, trying to set these quickest laps. But for now, it's all about setting the fastest lap in this session, and I still do expect the times to tumble below the 1 minute 13 range. Of course, with all this traffic in the way, it's important to get the ideal track position, so that way you have a clean lap. Just over a minute has elapsed, and we start to see these drivers on their warm-up laps now start to set their fastest times. Drivers weaving back and forth on the Dunlop straight here, trying to put some heat into their tires. I tell you what, this car is made for some great racing in the first round, and we should expect to see that pick up in Donington Park. As Kevin Asher is the first car in this train of cars. This is the number 14 Roaring Pipes Maniacs car. Kevin Asher started this season in Server 2, and by virtue of a great finish was promoted all the way up to Server 1. And I tell you, he has really shown some great pace all of today. And he's hoping to turn that into a solid result here on this great Wednesday. We have just a couple days left, of course, till the 24 Hours of Le Mans. We'll have full coverage of Race Department on that as well. In the meantime, we're here at Donington. It's a great virtual recreation of it, as these front runners are now going to start their first flying laps. Asher hard under braking into the S's, and through onto the straightaway to complete the first time lap. What's it going to look like here for Kevin Asher? It is a 1 minute 13.053. So already we're seeing a very similar pace to what we've seen in practice. And I do feel that there is still room for improvement. Jakovic is second in the number 2, in the second place, a 1 minute 13.126. And we're actually going to go on board with Kevin Asher here as he starts to run through his laps, try to find some more time here. He's going through the old hairpin right now. And that corner, of course, taking at about I'd say about over 100 kilometers an hour. Full throttle down into McLean's corner. It is so difficult to get this car straightened out. Whoa, big slide for Asher. Having to correct the steering on the way out. Down in the fourth again at Coppice. Almost a double apex corner there. And just full throttle on the way out onto the Dunlop straight. The undulations on this track. And then right at the crest of that last little bump there, that's when you got to brake. All the way down in the fourth gear. Let's see if he's got any more time. Kevin Asher at the front of this field. Can he reset his own benchmark? No, he doesn't quite find enough time there to reset, but we do have an improvement here, and it's Nicky Jakovic who goes to the top of the timesheets with a 1 minute 13.016 with just under 11 minutes left to go in this qualifying session. So already we're starting to see a couple drivers start to improve upon their times of the practice session as the track, of course, starts to gain more rubber. Rami Matias moved up in the fourth place. Tobias Reuner's fifth, and your winner from last round, Akis Kevrakidis, is sixth. Then it's Jay Adjian seventh, Luka Peglak in eighth, Alice Curran, his teammate, in ninth, and Dimitris Lakouris rounds out the top 10 provisionally as we're into the first stages of this qualifying session. Nicky Jakovic is going out of the pits now for another lap, trying to gain the ideal track position, and Asher is still standing on it. Ross Balfour now moves into fourth place with a time of 1 minute 13.305. So he's not too far off the pace of the leaders. In fact, the top 5 cars separated by less than half a second. And that is, of course, going to mean a very frantic race up front if the last round was any indication. So at the top 5, after 5 minutes of this qualifying session, Nicky Jakovic is on the provisional pole. Then it's Kevin Asher, Adrian Campfield, Ross Balfour, and Rami Matil rounding out the top 5 in this session. Had a car off of the old hairpin, but they managed to recover quite nicely. As Ross Balfour is completing his latest lap. Balfour, out of the mess of penalties, was actually promoted up to the third place. Drove a very flawless race, and we do hope that this sort of trend continues for the Roaring Pipes Maniacs, as they've now effectively asserted themselves as maybe the top all-around team remaining in this virtual BMW Racing Cup. And I'm seeing what Balfour has on his lap, and it's enough to move him in the third here. So he's finding some time. He's got a 1 minute 13.132 now. He's only a tenth of a second off the leader Jakovic for pole position. Now Campfield responds. He lays down a 1 minute 13.123. So he's on the inside of the second row, but only by 9/10 of a second. 9/1000ths of a second, I should say. It is certainly frantic action as we near the halfway point of this session. As we start to run down through the rest of the field really quick, Tommy Manninen is 6th, Jeffrey Tastanoy is 7th, Tobias Reuner is in 8th, Jay Agee is 9th, Luka Peklak at 8th, and down through 11 through 20, it's Galen Dimov, Akis Kevrakidis down there in 12th, Simon Knight is 13th place, Alez Current is 14th, Alex Parker running 15th right now, Dika Andre in 16th, Dimitris Lakouris in 17th, Marco Wachter in 18th, Andy White 19th place, 20th is David Kuthil, and rounding out this 21-car field is Hristo Milashev in the 21st position. No big changes atop the leaderboard. It's still Jakovic at the 7 minute 30-second mark. So we are starting to see and we should start to see these times come down. The track is still improving as these drivers are continuing to set laps here. These tires do seem to be fairly consistent. From my own experience, it's not really a cliff on these tires. So these drivers were able to push for a number of laps to try and get that fastest lap on one set of tires. It is still Nicky Jakovic on top as Balfour having a handful with the car out of Coppa's corner. Remember, this car is, it does have anti-lock brakes. It does have traction control available to him, but by no means is this a very easy car to drive, especially at the limit once you've dialed in your setups. And although there are only a certain number of things you can reset on these cars in terms of setups like suspensions and tire camber angles and all that stuff, yeah, this really is it's not an easy car to drive, but one that is very rewarding. Nicky Jakovic still circulating the track, looking for an improvement on his current best time. It's still a 1 minute 13.016. He's looking for his second straight pole to open this virtual BMW Racing Cup season. And with a quicker lap still, he could put it out of reach. So just over 5.5 minutes remaining in the session. Seeing a lot of cars here now. Now I'm seeing a lot of drivers. They pointed out that these curbs really do have a habit of completely unbalancing the cars. They've got to be able to get enough curb to negotiate the corner as quickly as possible, but you don't want to unsettle the car because that can really mess up your lap. And we have a new provisional pole sitter, and we have the first minute time under a 1 minute 13. It's Ross Balfour who goes to the top of the timesheets. He's got a 1 minute 12.987. So Balfour, who finished third at Silverstone, is right now on top of the qualifying standings with a blistering lap. Now, of course, we do still have about 5 minutes left to go in this session, so we still have plenty of fast drivers ready to compete and try and take the pole away from Balfour in these closing laps. Kevin Asher has moved further up into third place, so he's on the inside of row 2 as it stands. He's at a 1 minute 13.053. Which I should correct myself, that was the lap that he'd said earlier. Oh, Adrian Campfield, though, improves his time. Sets a 1 minute 13.018 to move into third. And he's only 2/1000ths of a second away from the fastest time of Jakovic. You have 4 minutes left, and this is really picking up. The top 4 drivers, the first 2 rows separated by less than 1/10 of a second in what is proving to be an absolutely frantic session. Balfour now stops. He'll have one more run in him. Kevin Asher has completed 9 laps in this qualifying session, so he's not only gotten plenty of pace, but he's also gotten a lot of track time, which is really, really beneficial in a race like this. Nicky Jakovic now going through McLean Corner. It seems to be stepping off of it a bit, maybe trying to save something up for one more run. As Campfield goes onto his last flying lap here. See what Campfield's got in this lap. He set a 1 minute 13.018. And he moves into provisional pole on this lap. It's a 1:12.839. And that was on his 6th lap of the day. So Adrian Campfield, of course, started the season in the 2nd server, is now up in the top server, and he is quickest right now by just over 1/10 of a second to Ross Balfour. So it's Campfield and Balfour, your provisional front row here in Donington. Adrian Campfield just putting in some very impressive times here in his car, this number 7 BMW. We still have plenty of time for a couple more laps, and that could really shake up the sort on the field. Campfield's so smooth through Coppice. And that is one of those corners that's so difficult. You're trusting the car won't step out on you as you're going full throttle. Now we're going to go on board with Adrian Campfield. Let's see what he does on this lap. From 5th down into 4th gear at Redgate. One of the slowest corners on the circuit. And then it's just practically full throttle. Don't lift if you got the bravery through Hollywood, Craner, and then the hold hairpin. Which, of course, by racing definition, really isn't much of a hairpin, but it is still a tricky corner to negotiate. Flat through Schwartz curve. Flat in the approach to McLean's Corner. He's got the pace and so smooth. Flipping the exit curve just at the exit of the corner. Down to the 4th again through Coppice. Again, just not really looking too far out of shape there. Just perfect lines, perfect control here through the Dunlop straight. Past the museum, down into 3rd gear. Maxing out the revs here. You won't be seeing many of these drivers go above 5th gear during this race, and that completes a lap. And he has actually found more time. 30 seconds left to go, and Adrian Campfield looks set for his first pole of this Racing Cup season with a 1:12.806. Oh, and he's just got a little bit loose out of Redgate, so that's effectively his session over. Jakovic is on a flying lap, and he's not going to complete in time before the time runs out. And with the seconds ticking down and much of the leaders in the pits, it's going to be Adrian Campfield who is going to take the pole position here in Donington Park. So that is a terrific race. And just to go over the track map one more time here. It is a 3.419 kilometer circuit. BTCC first raced here in 1977. We'll have a 32-lap race. It should be just over 100 kilometers in length. A track made up of several high-speed corners. Not a lot of slow stuff here once you get outside of the S's and the Redgate curves. These are mostly high-speed corners, plenty of flow, plenty of opportunities for close side-by-side racing on this Donington Park circuit. And as the drivers wait for the start of the race, let's just take a look at the starting grid for today's race. On pole is Adrian Campfield and Ross Balfour, who finished 3rd in the last round. In row 2, it's Nicky Jakovic, the pole sitter from Silverstone, and Kevin Asher in his first race in the top server. In row 3, it's going to be Rami Mattia and Tobias Reuner. In row 4, it's the Silverstone winner Akis Kefrakidis and Tommy Madinen. Row 9 is Luka Peglak and Jeffrey Tassinoy. In row 6 is Alez Current and Galen Dimov. In row 7, Jay Agee and Simon Knight. In the 8th row, it's Dinka Andre and Alex Parker. Row 9 is David Cuthill and Dimitris Lakouris. Row 10 is Andy Knight and Marco Wachter. And alone on the 11th row of the grid is Hristo Milashev. That's 21 cars participating in this session. We do have a few absences, a few relegations from the previous round. And hopefully we will be able to have what should be a great race, much cleaner affair, a lot less controversy, and a whole lot of great on-track action. So we have just over 3 minutes left to go in the start of the session. This would normally be the time in the broadcast where I turn over to my broadcast partner, Yuri Kasdorp, and ask him what he expects out of this race. Fortunately, Yuri not here, of course. I'll just say that I expect a great, an absolute fantastic race from start to finish. This is, of course, a premier destination for touring car racing all over the world. One of the best facilities that Great Britain has to offer, not just for national level racing, but for international level racing as well. And this truly is an international field with some great drivers coming from all corners of the world to participate in this virtual BMW Racing Cup. I cannot wait to get started, and neither can these drivers who are so closely matched in qualifying. But it turns out it was Adrian Campfield who took the pole position in the number 7 BMW. Just poised there, car sitting on its Dunlop tires, ready to go racing. And Ross Balfour on the outside of the first row. So we should have a pretty good start to this race. We certainly hope so. It's actually, I tell you what, the broadcast team actually has to go get on the grid. That's one of the idiosyncrasies of an Assetto Corsa broadcast. We actually have to be on the grid for the start of the race and then back out of it just a bit. But we will get to that. We have just over a minute left till the start of the race. And then we should be ready for round 2 of this virtual BMW Racing Cup. I want to say thank you for everybody who tuned into this broadcast, who is participating in the live stream chat. Thank you so much. And we do hope to be able to bring you all of this exciting action. Less than a minute to go now. It's Campfield and Balfour in the front row. Nicky Jakovic and Kevin Asher in row 2. Rami Mattia and Tobias Reuner in row 3. And the top drivers, the top 10 in this field were separated by less than a second. And that is a testament to how close the action is, not just between this spec car, but also between these exceptionally talented drivers. As we now have 30 seconds until the start of this race. So the broadcast team is going to get up on the grid, and then we're going to get out. And then we're just going to call the action for you as we start this second round of the championship. I tell you what, I'm excited. Here we go. The lights are about to come on to signify the start of this race. I'm excited, and I hope you are too. Here come the lights, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and when they're extinguished, the second round of the virtual BMW Racing Cup is now underway. And it is a good, clean start for Adrian Campfield. Nicky Jakovic slots into second. And he's going to be right on Campfield's back bumper as they go through Redgate. It's a clean start. It's a clean start here in Balfour. Balfour's in second, and he's right on the back bumper of Campfield now. So this is great stuff. We have a mostly clean start throughout the field. No major incidents to report. Oh, we will let you know of anything here. Oh, these cars towards the back of the field, though, they're kind of getting out of shape. We see some cars darting off and back and forth, but it's still Adrian Campfield who leads the pace ahead of Balfour, then Jakovic, Asher, and Matila. They come into Compass Corner now. The Let's see who's got the pace out of here, because we're on the first of two long straightaways. So who's going to have the pace here? Is Campfield going to get a good exit? Yes, he is. But Balfour's going to stay right behind him, though. Just try and tuck in the leader slipstream as much as we can here. Oh, Kevin Asher had a look at the inside of Nicky Jakovic into the S's. As we complete the first lap, Adrian Campfield is going to lead the first lap of this race. As we see cars start to go side by side behind them. Kevin Asher still taking a look at the inside. Is Asher going to make a move on the inside? Balfour had a look at the outside going into the red gate. Oh, and Balfour's going to run wide. So he's going to lose a bit of time there. He's going to lose all that momentum and fall off the back of Adrian Campfield. It may have overcooked it going into the red gate. And Kevin Asher has made the move on Nicky Jakovic for third. So Asher is now right behind his Roaring Pipe Maniac teammate for third place. So let's see if we start to see them use some teamwork to try and get past the leader, Campfield. And then behind them, it's Tobias Reuner in fifth place. Akis Kevrakidis is right behind him in sixth. So is Rami Mattia. Mattia's actually taking a look at the inside of Kevrakidis as they head through Compass. Ooh, close racing there. But Kevrakidis keeps the position. Left just enough room for Mattia, but not enough for him to take the position. And Kevrakidis now leading a train of three cars, which has Luca Peglag at the back of the field. Campfield set to lead another lap here, ahead of Balfour, Asher, Jakovic, and Reuner, the top five. Campfield's lead now up to 0.7 of a second. Let's see what these cars have here. Is Campfield going to start to check out from the rest of the field? We'll check and see if that happens. Mattia now leading a train of cars. That's Rami Mattia in 7th place. And he has Luca Peglag behind him. Also, his teammate Tommy Mannon is 9th. And then it's Les Current rounding at the top 10. So this is number 15 BMW. All the way up in a good points-paying position in 7th. And remember, you just have to be outside of the bottom 5 here to avoid relegation into the second server for the next round of the championship. Still, Adrian Campfield controlling the pace up front. Ross Balfour and Kevin Asher, though, they're nose to tail behind each other down the Dunlop straight. We'll start to see if these two have any pace to challenge the leader up front. I tell you, Adrian Campfield has been very impressive all this race, and he is and it is only 3 laps in, but he's been quick in qualifying, he's been quick in practice, and he is starting to show that pace. He didn't really open up too much of an advantage, though. He's still just 0.7 ahead of Balfour for first place. And then Asher, another 0.7 of a second behind Balfour. Jakovic, 2 seconds behind the leader in 4th. And then a big gap of about 2.2 seconds to Tobias Reuner. So it's these front 4 cars that seem to have all the pace in this session. Meanwhile, in 5th, Tobias Reuner, he's starting to see his mirrors full of Akis Kevrakidis is currently sits, and he's looking for another victory. Of course, it's going to be a tough fight, but Kevrakidis just has to get past as many cars as he can here. And you never know with the way the race turned out last. Whoa, oh goodness! Kevin Asher has spun! Kevin Asher has spun from 3rd place! He just got it all wrong coming out of McLean, and Kevin Asher is going to fall down and lose several spots. I believe he's going to fall out of the top 10 for this. So we will have to check the replay just to see what happened there. But that is a very key mistake to one of the drivers who's been quick all weekend. And up in front of him, we got side-by-side action. Mannon and Current right alongside each other out of the S's. They're just right up against each other. And that's only for 8th. So we're starting to see this racing action pick up. And you know Kevin Asher is going to be very, very keen to try and get back the positions he lost out that one mistake. He's in a gaggle of cars led by Tommy Mannon in 8th place. But Alice Current is 9th and right on his back bumper. He hasn't lifted an inch. Jeffrey Tassinoy snuck up into the top 10 thanks to that spin from Current. And then at the tail end of this train of 5 cars, that's Jay Agee, who finished 6th at Silverstone. we're starting to see these drivers really willing to put it all on the line, especially here in these early laps. And look at this, Tassinoy taking a look at the inside. Trying to maintain his position on Kevin Asher. That's some great defensive driving. And in this train of cars here, it looks like Mannanen and Curran have actually put a gap on that group of cars behind them. And Jay Adgie had a look on the inside of Kevin Asher going into the S's, but he's going to stay behind him in 12th. Meanwhile, up front, it's still Campfield, who controls the pace, but only by 0.8 of a second to Ross Balfour. So Balfour is keeping him honest. And we'll see what he has left in him. Jakovic is third. He's starting to lose touch with the leaders. He's now 2 seconds off. And then Reuner is now 5.6 seconds back of the leader. And he still has his mirrors full of Akis Kiprakidis in 5th place now. Thanks to that spin, Kiprakidis now moving into the top 5. That'll be very good for his championship aspirations. Of course, he came out with the championship lead in Silverstone. His teammate Stelios Fevgatos is actually absent from this race. Only one double dragon car in the field, but Akis Kiprakidis still looking extremely competitive in the number 9 double dragon car. I should correct myself. The 99 is Ross Balfour, and he's actually, Nicky Jakovic has actually closed in, so we got a little bit of a battle brewing for second place as Campfield starts to check out. Jakovic has caught the second place car of Balfour. They're just separated by 0.7 of a second at this stage of the race. So it is Balfour in second place, but he is starting to lose touch with the leader, and he now has pressure coming up on him from behind. Meanwhile, Les Curran has actually gotten around Tommy Mannanen for 8th place. So how's Curran running one position behind his teammate Luka Peglag? The all-Slovenian team having another strong race. They're 7th and 8th on track, respectively. Mannanen actually feeling the pressure for Kevin Asher. Mannanen actually had to look at the inside of the old hairpin, and he had to take that inside line to keep his position, but Kevin Asher is going to keep the pressure on as they go into McLean. This is very, very close stuff. Ooh, Asher caught a little bit of the curb there. Hard inside line. And Mannanen still keeping it composed, but Asher's going to stay right with him. This is a battle for ninth. And Asher just about 5 car lengths up ahead in the distance. Curran's going to have a peek to the inside. Can he get him under braking? Is he going to make the move? Kevin Asher right by side. Is Asher going to have the room? No, he's not. He may lose 10th to Jeffrey Tassinoy. He had a look at the inside. Oh, but now Tassinoy is going to tuck in behind Kevin Asher. It's almost 3 wide going into Redgate. Oh, and I hope this all works out, and it looks like out of this exchange, Kevin Asher is actually going to come away. Oh, and he just runs wide over Redgate, boxed himself down to the gravel, and a bit of contact there. So another key mistake for Kevin Asher. And that is, I'll tell you what, oh, look at that. Mannanen got touched there. Tommy Mannanen got a bump from behind by Jay Adgie. And Adgie and Mannanen get together, and now Mannanen's going to lose a lot of time in track position. So it is all really frantic at the bottom end of this top 10. But who comes out the winner of this is Jeffrey Tassinoy, who now moves into 9th place out of all that mess. And it's Galen Dimov who's now moved into right behind Tassinoy. And Asher has actually done well to stay in this group of cars. We still have plenty of racing to go here. The leaders have now completed quarter distance, 8 laps, and it is still Adrian Campfield, and he has actually pulled out a gap of 2.3 seconds to the second place car of Ross Balfour. Then it's Nicky Jakovic in 3rd. Tobias Reuner is 4th, still a ways off the pace of the top 3 cars. In 5th is Akis Kevrakidis. Rami Matias 6th. Then it's Luka Peglag. LS Curran is teammate in 8th. Jeffrey Tassinoy is 9th. And Galen Dimov rounds out the top 10 in what has been a very frantic race. And now Dimov is coming under pressure from Kevin Asher. Asher taking a look at the outside and then tucking back the inside, trying the up and under here. Oh, he's looking on the outside at Swanson. That's a very difficult place to pass. That's going to set him up for the inside line of McLean. Can he get it done here? Oh, not quite, but he is going to... Ooh. So Kevin Asher already making some big moves here. And is that Rami Mattia? Yes, he may have slowed down. He may have made a mistake coming out of McLean, and he's fallen in the clutches of Dimov. Dimov's right on his back bumper. Kevin Asher's going to take the position away through all this. So Kevin Asher is going to try and get around Rami Mattia. They're side by side in the Dunlop Straight. This is great stuff. We have 2 rows of 2 cars running side by side of the S's. And look at that. Kevin Asher's going to slip through Rami Mattia. It's going to fall back and lose position. So after 9 laps, the updated order is now Campfield, Balfour, Jakovic, Royner, Kevrakidis, Peklag, Curran, Tassinoy, Asher, and Simon Knight moves into the top 10 in that purple and gold BMW. Tell you what, we see some very colorful liveries here. Oh, and Rami Mattia and Galen Dimov just touch wheels there. That is all just really happening here, and this is all set around those battles for the lower end spots in the top 10. So we are of absolutely no shortage of great racing action here in this second round of the Race Department Virtual BMW Racing Cup. Galen Dimov still in 12th, right behind Rami Mattia, and Tommy Mannanen has now fallen a little bit of a ways back there from this group of cars. Andy White is 14th, Jay Agee is 15th. As we run through some of the drivers towards the tail end of the field, so far everybody is on the lead lap now, so that's good to see that these drivers haven't run across too much misfortune. Still keeping a competitive face. Christo Milashev is 16th, Alex Parker 17th, Marco Wachter 18th, Dika Andre 19th, Dimitris Likouris is 20th. David Kothel runs out the field. He's been in 21st place for most of this race, but he is still on the lead lap. And look at this, Balfour is actually taking about over a half a second on a Campfield's lead. So that may be something to look into as this race progresses. Ross Balfour may be finding some speed as this track starts to improve. So Balfour ever so patiently trying to reel in the leader Campfield, who has led every lap so far out of this 32-lap feature. We have completed 10 laps, and Campfield has been out front in all of them. And in fact, we're going to go on board with Ross Balfour. And that speck in the distance is going to be the lead car of Campfield. You start to see it yourself. The smooth line through Redgate Corner. And remember, it's all about keeping a steady rhythm on this Donington Park circuit. Constant direction change, lots of flowing high-speed corners. It takes a very skilled and experienced driver to find the most speed. Ooh, kind of a little bit unstable there and unsettled. And you see Nicky Jakovic is starting to close in his rear view mirror. His car is really consistent. He's only setting times that are about a second slower than his times in qualifying. And it's still very competitive. Balfour has had consistent pace all day long, and he's good for a second straight podium finish to open the season as it stands. And there it is right at the top of that crest. Actually, you get over the top of that crest, and that's about the latest you can leave it before it all starts to unravel going into the S's. So Ross Balfour is still holding on into second. He's 2.6 seconds back of the leader, Adrian Campfield, who has done a good job to control the pace of this race from the pole position. As we start to see some of the drivers here. And now we have something brewing for sixth place. This is Luca Peklag up front in sixth, but he's got his mirrors full of his teammate, Ales Current. Two drivers who really impressed in Silverstone on some great wheel-to-wheel racing. And they're now just 0.6 of a second separating each other. So these two Slovenian drivers, nothing is separating them on track in terms of pace or in distance. And this is going to be very fun to watch. Peklag and Current running pretty much nose to tail, 6th or 7th. Not really getting much others way. And look who is in the distance behind them. That is the car of Kevin Asher, the Roaring Pipes Maniac's second entry, who has had a couple of off-track excursions, but is still very quick. He's in 8th right now and trying to reel in these cars who are running 6th and 2nd. And I tell you what, we're just about approaching the halfway marker of this race. And this has been a race that has been fairly clean so far. No major incidents. We have had a couple of on-track excursions, maybe some bumping and banging, but nothing too serious here. And that is the example of racing that we've come to expect from all of our leagues hosted here at racedepartment.com. It is a big weekend for racing in general. We, of course, have the 24 Hours of Le Mans this weekend. All the racing world's attention will be focused on the Circuit de la Sarthe. A great four-way battle for the top honors in the LMP1 class. Some close racing in the GTE categories. At the LMP2 class, which will see great diversity in terms of chassis, driver, and engine selection. It will all be something to watch, and that will kick off June 13th. So we're all looking forward to see that, and we do send our best wishes to Ricardo Edelman and Yuri Kasdorp as they're on their way to the Circuit de la Sarthe. Balfour is actually, Campfield's actually opening a gap up to Balfour again. He's now got it up to over 3 seconds, and the gap from Balfour to Jakovic for second and third is less than a second. Meanwhile, for 4th place, we have a battle brewing here. Reuter now once again feeling the pressure from the Silverstone winner, Akis Kevrakidis. This is the battle for 4th place. Excuse me, I'm actually hearing in my headset here. Let's see what's going on here. So for 11th here, we got some that's a break. Oh goodness, Galen Dimov has actually spun as we were catching up with this battle for 11th place. That's Galen Dimov getting it all wrong. He may have been spun there, but he's trying to get this car back around. But that is not looking promising. Galen Dimov has just looped it through the crater curves. You got to try and find a way to rejoin safely, but it's very hard to do through this section of Donington Park. And Simon Knight now moves into 10th place, but he's going to have his mirrors full of Rami Mattia. This is for the last spot in the top 10. And Mattia is still maintaining the pressure. Meanwhile, in that battle for third, Reuter and Kevrakidis still within a half second of each other. Our eyes are actually focused on this battle for 10th place. Simon Knight, Rami Mattia. Knight up ahead, and looks like Tommy Mannanen is looming in the distance. Mattia's going to have a look. He's looking the inside. He's looking the outside. I don't think he's going to have enough room, so he's going to look at the outside, setting up in the red gate. And I don't think the up and under move worked out quite as well, so he's just going to try and stay behind him as close as possible. There's some great racing going on here. And Risto Milashev, who actually started in the back, has moved up 6 spots from 21st into 15th. That's always good to see. Whoa, look at this. Mattia trying to force his way through the inside. Simon Knight having to defend as quickly as he got. He's got the inside line. And Mattia's going to try it up and under. Ooh, doesn't quite have enough. And he got a little bit unsettled on... I'm all tongue-tied. He got unsettled on corner exit. And Mattia's actually going to lose a bit of momentum there out of that. He was just doing his best here to try and keep it honest with Simon Knight. But Knight showing great defensive awareness and keeps the 10th position for now. Meanwhile, up into 6th, Kevin Asher has moved into 6th place, but he's still feeling the pressure from Les Curran, and Luka Peglak has actually lost 2 positions out of this exchange. So right now, the battle for 6th is currently headed by Kevin Asher, who had qualified very well. He was running up in 3rd, and then a spin dropped him down the order, but he's done well to fight back and move his way back into 6th. We've completed half distance. Adrian Campfield still out in front, but the interval's now down to just 1.6 seconds. So something to develop here. Balfour is not going away just yet. And Kevin Asher still in 6th place and starting to put a little bit of distance on those drivers current at Peclag. Tassinoy at the back of this field in 9th, and he may want to try and look at the inside of Luca Peclag. He's right in his slipstream. As they go through the S's here, so we'll see if he's got another look here. They're gonna follow each other single file going into Redgate. We've completed 17 laps. Adrian Campfield still leads. And up into 4th place we go. Tobias Reuner has still got his mirrors full of Akis Kiprakidis. Rami Mattia has actually moved into 10th place now. He got the move done on Simon Knight. So Mattia is now in the 10th spot ahead of Knight. But Knight's not going away quickly either. Reuner feeling the pressure still from Kevrakidis, who is taking a look to the inside. But he's not quite close enough at this point of the race. However, if he gets a good exit out of Coppice, he may have something for Reuner as they go into the S's. Kevrakidis looking on the inside. They're going to stand on the brakes once they get to the S's. Oh, and Kevrakidis tucks back in line. Didn't quite have enough to make a safe move to the inside of Reuner without taking them both out. But now he's got more of a chance here. Let's see what he's got at Redgate. We got a couple of cars actually exiting the pits. So a couple of cars off the pace already. And Kevrakidis now still trying to find a way past. And Jeffrey Tassinoy has now moved into 8th spot. Tassinoy's car finding quite a bit of pace. I do not believe we should expect these cars to be servicing pits. His fuel tanks will be good to go for the 32-lap distance. Adrian Campfield still way out in front as he starts to approach some lap traffic here. He's set a blistering pace as he did in qualifying to take the pole position. And now he's starting to catch up to the cars on the tail end of this field. Well, that's one way to avoid the lap traffic, get into the way. And look at this, in the distance behind them, Nicky Jakovic still keeping with Ross Balfour, so it's been kind of a seesaw battle. Campfield will start to pull away, then Balfour will start to catch up, then Balfour will start to pull back into the clutches of Jakovic. There's been a really interesting dynamic throughout this entire race between the front 3 cars. And we'll go on board again with Ross Balfour because he's got his mirrors full of Nicky Jakovic, the pole sitter in Silverstone. Just another smooth line here. But he's got to be careful. It's very hard, of course, to defend your position when you're, of course, worried that the car in front is going to start pulling away. It's a really nice line through Coppice. But how will he defend his position going into the S's? Jakovic's starting to peek on the inside, but he doesn't quite have enough. Oh, they're going to get so close. Jakovic nearly got into his bumper. But they keep it clean. And a good exit out of the S's. Some great stuff we're seeing from all these drivers. And we would like to thank all of our viewers for tuning in. We do have quite a high number here on Race Department today. 40 people tuned in live to see this race. And we certainly have more around the world. You can watch this race anytime on our YouTube channel, Race Department. So going through the field, it is Campfield, Balfour, Jakovic, Reuner, Kevrakidis, Asher, Current, Tassinoy, Peclag, and Mattia, your top 10. We have completed 20 laps, so we're starting to wind things down here in the second round of this Race Department Virtual BMW Racing Cup. These cars promise exciting racing, and they are certainly delivering. Oh, look at this. Balfour still has his mirrors full of Jakovic. And I do believe that's allowing Campfield to get ahead some. Yeah, so the gap's now open back up to 3 seconds from Adrian Campfield and Ross Balfour. This is a very impressive drive from Campfield, who has led every lap so far. Certainly used to seeing that if you've watched our virtual stock car championship broadcast. Many great drivers have just been controlling the pace from start to finish. And now the leaders are starting to come up on more lap traffic, trying to do their best to stay out of the way. So I don't necessarily think going in the grass is usually the most efficient example. For fourth, Reuner and Kevrakidis. They are still really going at each other. Kevrakidis has been putting on quite a bit of pressure on Tobias Reuner, who's one of the few independents in this field, and a very quick one at that. And he has shown great discipline to stay in front of the driver who won in what turned out to be a very frantic and chaotic race. Ended up with an entirely different official podium than the one we saw in last week's broadcast. And up behind them. And look at this for P2. For P2, we have a move, and it is Nicky Jakovic who has finally made the move on Ross Balfour, but Balfour isn't going away just yet. Jakovic made the move at Redgate, but Balfour's going to try and tail him through these high-speed corners, through the old hairpin. And it is Nicky Jakovic, the pole sitter in Silverstone, who finished fourth officially in Silverstone, and he's moved up into second in this race. Well, let's see what Ross Balfour can do to respond. Remember, McLean has caught out so many tough drivers already in this one, but they keep it clean through that part of the section, and that really may be what has separated these two drivers from a lot of other drivers in the field. Balfour is looking, trying to get into the slipstream here. He's not going to have enough in him to make a move here at the S's unless he really wants to throw his race away. I certainly want to make that. Nicky Jakovic made the move in the last lap, and now he's in second place. But out of all that, Adrian Campfield has opened up his lead to the second place car to 3.5 seconds. So up front is still Adrian Campfield. Great battles up and down the track. The battle for second between Jakovic and Balfour. The battle for fourth between Reuter and Kevrakidis, which Reuter's actually put a bit of distance on Kevrakidis. And then Kevin Asher and Sid Alice current leading a train of cars. In seventh, he's got Jeffrey Tassinoy and Luca Peklag, his teammate, behind him. In ninth, Rami Mattia rounds out the top 10. So this race is starting to settle a bit. We have 9 laps to go, and the track is really starting to gain some grip. And of course, if you fall off that grippy line, it means it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find grip outside of it. Donington, of course, a great track, though, for multi-groove racing. You see plenty of side-by-side action all throughout the races that we have here. And it has certainly proven to be the case here in this one. Nicky Jakovic, Ross Balfour, second and third. And Balfour is not going away anytime soon. And look at this, Jakovic has actually closed in about 0.5 seconds to the leader, Campfield. But they are running out of laps. If Jakovic has a challenge for the leader, he's got to start putting in these fast laps now. Meanwhile, the top 3 cars have completely cleared Tobias Reuter. The gap between Balfour in third and Reuter in fourth is about 15 seconds. So we're starting to see that these top 3 cars clearly have an overwhelming pace advantage in this one. I know what, we're also seeing some interesting stuff brewing towards the bottom end of the top 10. Current is still ahead of Tassinoy, but Peklag is looming. Those 7th, 8th, and 9th cars keeping each other honest. They're about a second, 1.1 seconds apart from each other on the last lap. And now the front runners will start to negotiate some traffic. In fact, Jakovic is actually coming up to Hristo Milishev's car, carrying the DTM colors. Does his best to just keep out of the way of the leaders. without interfering too much in the outcome. And look at that, Jakovic chipping away again. He's taken about a tenth or two out of Campfield's lead with 7 laps to go. So the race has started to settle down a bit after some frantic moments up and down the field. It is starting to settle, but these drivers are really just putting in as many fast laps as they can to try and close down these gaps, or at least stay ahead of the cars behind them that have been putting in pressure. We go through the field once more. Campfield leads. Jakovic second. Balfour third. Reuner is fourth. Kefrakidis is fifth. So he's on track for another great top 10 finish. Kevin Asher, who had the 2 mistakes here, sits. Oh, look at that. Oh, goodness. A lap car may have gotten it all wrong in Coppice. Did well to stay out of the lead. And look at this. Oh, goodness. Jakovic touches. They touch. Oh, my goodness. Jakovic spun. Is that the leader, Campfield, who's lost all that time? Yes, it is. Okay, so reset everything. Adrian Campfield has now lost 1.7 seconds of his lead with 6 laps to go, and Ross Balfour is closing, and Nicky Jakovic has lost it in the S's. He's still in third, but that has cost him plenty of time. And my goodness, what an exchange there. I'll tell you what, just as I was saying that this race was starting to settle, it has done anything but. Reuner and Kefrakidis are now separated by less than 0.3 of a second. So Kefrakidis once again putting on the pressure. He wants to get into 4th place. He's been following Reuner all race long. He's desperate to get around him for position. But how desperate? There's still 6 laps left. Plenty of time. The complexion of this race has changed. The number 7 car of Adrian Campfield now sees Ross Balfour right behind him. So the lap traffic, which we didn't really get up until about the halfway point of the race, now it is starting to become a factor. So it's a matter of whether these cars will be able to negotiate cleanly and whether these drivers will maintain their composure throughout the remaining distance. We have 5 laps to go. It's Campfield from Balfour. The gap is 1.128 seconds. Don't tune away just yet. This is going to get good. Adrian Campfield maintains his position. Reuner and Kefrakidis for 4th. They're still separated by just a half a second. And Kevin Asher in 6th. Great recovery drive after a couple of mistakes. Dropped him down the field, but he's done well to consolidate 6th place. And Reuner's still looking very good. He has driven a very good race as one of the quickest independents on the circuit. Is Campfield going to try and start opening this gap up? He absolutely has to. After that mistake a couple laps ago, he may start wanting to try and open this gap up a bit further. Jakovic has completely lost touch with the leaders, though he is starting to reel him in a bit. Oh, it is going to be a long shot if he can get 2nd place again. Reuner and Kefrakidis still nose to tail. Kefrakidis, who came out the winner after that very controversial opening round at Silverstone. And he is in a tough fight for 4th place, as he has been all weekend. Now he's going to look to the outside. Is he going to have it here? Oh, still about a car length behind as the laps start to wind down. 4 laps to go in this one. And Kevin Asher is actually starting to close in on the drivers competing for 4th and 5th. Meanwhile, up front, it's still Campfield who leads from Balfour, and then Nicky Jakovic. Tobias Reuner and Akis Kefrakidis round out your top 5. Start to go through the field some more. We have 15 cars still on the lead lap. So it looks like the next one that is set to go a lap down is Galadimov, who had a spin earlier, was running well up in the top 10. Balfour starting to close a bit. He was very close in the S's. And now let's see where the gap stands at this point of the race. Just 3 laps left to go, and that gap is now closed down to 0.6 of a second. Hold everything, folks. This is going to get good. If Balfour continues to maintain this consistent pace, if Campfield's starting to feel the pressure, if somehow his tires are starting to go away, and look at this for fourth, Keverkidis is going to make the move. Keverkidis had the position of going past the start-finish line, and Akis Keverkidis has moved past into fourth place. Reuner's not going away, though. Reuner's staying right with him. In fact, he's going to look to the outside, going through the Crater curves. I tell you what, these two have been at it nonstop. Keverkidis slamming the door. No room for Reuner on the inside there. Reuner's going to look to the outside to try to get the inside line of McLean. Is he going to have enough space? Keverkidis still maintains the fourth place. Great drive in there from Akis Keverkidis. Up at the front, we have just about 2 laps to go. Campfield now has his mirrors full of Ross Balfour. The pole sitter who has controlled most of this race is now slipping into the clutches of the second place runner. He's got a tenth of a second back on his lead, though. This is really going to get frantic in these last 2 laps. What will these drivers do? Do they consolidate their positions, knowing that they've already driven a great race? Or, in fact, do they indeed try and consolidate? Go for it. And look at this. Kevin Asher is going to force his way back into the top 5. So Asher has actually gained so much speed, and he's moved into 5th, and he's going to try and challenge Keverkidis for 4th. What a phenomenal recovery drive for Kevin Asher over the course of this race. And we'll keep our eye on that. In fact, Asher is actually going to take a look to the outside of Keverkidis through Schwartz, going into McLean. Is Asher going to make the move? He looks to the inside. They're so close to touching, yet they do not touch. And Keverkidis is going to hold the position. We have just 1 lap to go in this race. Adrian Campfield looking to go wire to wire, but it's going to be anything but easy. He has a lap car in front of him, and only 0.5 of a second separates him from the second place car of Ross Balfour. This is it. This is the final lap. This is where it's all going to come down to. After a very controversial race in Silverstone, this is the kind of race that we do need to see. It has been great stuff that we are seeing. And now it looks like Campfield may be trying to open up that gap there. Keverkidis, meanwhile, still trying to resist the pressure of Kevin Asher, and Tobias Reuner hasn't gone away either. Asher looks to the outside through the old hairpin, looking for the up and under move. Is he going to get it? No, not quite. Just a couple more corners to go for the leaders, as Adrian Campfield, the pole sitter, the fastest man in practice, driving that number 7 car, the very familiar look. And he's got just a couple more corners to negotiate, and he will have sewed it down for his first victory of the season. The checkered flag flies, and it's going to be Adrian Campfield in his first race of the top server. He wins from Ross Balfour. Nicky Jakovic completes the podium. Here's the battle for 4th. Keverkidis, Asher. Is Asher going to have enough room? No, he's not quite going to have this time and space to do it. Can he get one last run on the outside, though? On the final stretch, it's going to be close. And the 4th place. Wow. Akis Keverkidis holds on to 4th. Asher is 5th. Reuner is 6th. Tassinoy in 7th place. Followed by Current Peklag in 9th. Mattia in 10th to complete the top 10 in this one. Oh, and there's contact afterwards. But all in good fun. And Adrian Campfield drove an absolutely great race. He resisted the pressure late after a small mistake could have cost him the victory. Instead, Adrian Campfield comes away the winner in an absolutely frantic stuff. And the battle for this was a great race from start to finish. I'll tell you what, I did have a bit of difficulty calling this one solo. I may have stumbled over my sentences, but that I was so tongue-tied just from the great racing action that we saw on our screen. I hope everybody was entertained along with us. So a quick review of the unofficial results, and I do stress they are unofficial. Adrian Campfield, Ross Balfour, Nicky Jakovic, Adrian Akis Keverkadis, Kevin Asher are your top 5. In 6th, and Tobias Reuner. Jeffrey Tassinoy is 7th. Alice Current is 8th. Luca Pecklag is 9th. And Rami Mattia rounds out the top 10 in this one. Let's check and see if any drivers want to join us for post-race interviews. Of course, we are looking forward to our next round in the virtual BMW Racing Cup Championship. I'll tell you what, this has been unbelievable stuff from start to finish. And if this race sets a barometer of what's to come over the next 2 rounds, I'll tell you what, I'm very excited to look forward to this. And, of course, Yuri Ricardo, if you're watching, you certainly missed out on a great one. That's for sure. We're going to check to see if we have anybody coming by for post-race interviews. And we will follow up and wrap things up here very shortly once that's done. And again, your winner, Adrian Campfield, in the number 7 car, wins it in 39 minutes, 16.669 seconds after completing 32 laps. And I'll tell you what, very, very big thanks to Joel for helping out make this broadcast run as smoothly as possible throughout the entire race. And our next round is going to be next Wednesday, in fact, at the MLS Circuit, the former home of the San Marino Grand Prix. It'll be another exciting race, 100 kilometers around that great track, and that will be on Wednesday, the 17th of June, and live broadcast on racedepartment.com. So right now we're just checking to see if we still have anybody for post-race interviews. And of course, the full race report will be published along with the official results. Again, these results still, as we prove, unofficial as of today. So as the action starts to die down a bit, had to catch my breath here. It was a great race from start to finish, and really sort of the stuff that we take pride on here, especially with these cars at this track. We were expecting a great race, and it certainly delivered. It was something to behold. We're gonna actually wrap things up here. Of course, the next round of the championship at Imola, it's going to be on the 17th of June. And a big thanks to Joel for helping us bring you the broadcast of this race. And of course, big thanks to everybody who has helped organize this event and made it a success today, as a great race has unfolded before us. I'm RJ O'Connell. It's been my absolute privilege to call this race here from Donington Park for the virtual BMW Racing Cup. And I do hope to see you again next week from Imola for the 3rd round of the virtual BMW Racing Cup. Until then, take care and have a great racing evening.